I think we can begin.
Ma'am,
I think we can begin.
A very good evening.
Yes.
Seasonal greetings and good evening to all.
Yeah, a very good afternoon to all of you, all of our attendees for today's session. I'm Dr. Amol Ranadive, Associate Professor for Consumer Neuroscience and Customer Relationship Management at Sri Balaji University, Pune. So before we begin our today's session, I would like to inform our audiences that we would be temporarily putting you all on mute, and you can always make use of Zoom chat box for any questions that you may have during the session. And we'll take up these sessions in the end during our Q&A phase. We'll also be sharing the feedback and attendance link during the Q&A session, which will be made available only for just about 15 minutes. So I would request you all to be really quick in filling it up. Certificates will be issued only to those who fill up the feedback and attendance form through this link. We are also streaming live this webinar on AIMS YouTube channel. So I welcome the YouTube channel audiences also. So today we have with us Dr. Sweta Banerjee, Deputy Director and Professor at the Balaji Institute of Management and Human Resource Development, Sri Balaji University. Dr. Banerjee has a rich experience of over 2 decades in academia across universities in India and abroad. Dr. Sweta has guided several PhD scholars and has authored several research papers indexed in Scopus and ABDC journals. She has a very strong hold in the areas of OB, HR, and positive psychology. In today's session on inspiring young leaders, Dr. Sweta will be deep diving into the idea of understanding level 5 leadership and help us understand this concept through the bestseller book, Good to Great by Jim Collins. So over to you, Dr. Sweta.
Thank you, Amol. Dr. Amol, it's gracious that you have spoken good things about me. Welcome all into this session. Hopefully, I'll be able to do justice to this concept of understanding level 5 leadership from good to great. So let's explore some key insights from Good to Great by Jim Collins. Now, when it comes to business, or when we just talk about life in general, it is often said that good is often the enemy of great. So not only in business, also in general, our lives. So the vast majority of companies never become great because they are satisfied with being good and with whatever good results they are getting. So Good to Great aims to address the question, how can a company become a great company when they have always been doing very good? So author Jim Collins have identified some organizations and made a lot of research and empirical studies into these organizations. So the total number of organizations that he has taken is 1,425 organizations and had seen this transition from good to great. And the entire study had a lot of research with Jim Collins and his team and had given a great impetus to level 5 leadership. So they analyzed these publicly traded companies and which had a certain pattern. So what was this pattern? 15 years of cumulative stock returns at or below the general stock market. Then these companies were punctuated by the transition point. So when they were studying this 15-year of cumulative stock returns at or below the general stock market, they were all good companies. And then they were punctuated by about a certain point, and then cumulative returns after another 15 years had been seen that at least 3 times the market over the next 15 years. So the critical question here was, what did the good to great companies share in common that distinguished them from the comparison companies? So obviously, these companies were compared to some other companies. So the core concepts of this book were developed by making a lot of empirical research deductions from the data that was collected. And it was an iterative process of developing ideas and testing them against the data, then revising the data and building a framework. So the framework is what we will be talking about when we talk about level 5 leadership. So now this framework, then the frameworks gets broken and rebuilding it yet again. So each company had to demonstrate the good to great pattern independent of its industry. So if we talk about what is this pattern, then after studying this pattern of 15 years, when they were good, then a transition, and another 15 years that they have become great, the company has dropped certain considerations. So in the end, from 1,425 companies, only 11 companies could see this transition from good to great in this. So this entire study had been almost took about 40 years. To mention one thing, Jim Collins have not touched great companies like Coca-Cola and Pepsi. They were already great. So these were good companies which has transited to great companies. So critically, the team also found 2 sets of comparison companies. The first set was direct comparisons in the same industry as their good to great counterparts, but did not show a leap. So it was on the same industry and it was a direct comparison. The second was unsustained comparison that made a short-term shift from the good to great, but then did not made up to the trajectory. So in the end, the following framework was born. So if you can see the framework, we talked about the model includes 3 stages: disciplined people, disciplined thought, and disciplined action. Within each stage, there are 2 concepts. So wrapping around this entire thing, we have something known as the flywheel, which we would be explaining. The concept will be discussed later. The flywheel, which brings again everything together. Now, we are talking about concept 1, that is level 5 leadership. So the entire study was on understanding leadership. Yes, it was the leaders and it was the level 5 leaders which has made this entire transition possible for all these 11 companies that was named as from good to great. And so all of the good to great companies had level 5 leadership at their transition point. So what is this form of leadership? It's a unique combination of 2 things: characteristics, personality traits, and how they are the factors which are very important in level 5 leadership. So personal humility and professional will. So when we talk about personal humility, that might be it can also be seen in many of the characteristics when they were studying that these leaders were sometimes even shy, they were reserved, they were very humble. And professional will is the willingness to take the company from one level to another. So such leaders have incredible ambition for the company and its success rather than for their. So they were not going after celebrity status, like the turnaround is my ballgame altogether. They were much more humble. And in their success they were not after fame or fortune or having a celebrity status. So this overarching strategy that they had made only because of how they could reach the level of level 5 of leadership. So now let us discuss what is level 5. So there are 5 levels. Now they are not discrete. Each level might be overlapping with each other, but yes, when we are talking about level 5, characteristics are very important. So the level 1 becomes highly capable individual, makes productive contributions through talent, knowledge, skills, good work habits. So all leaders should possess this. Contributing team member, contributes individual capabilities to achievement of group activities. It is nonetheless, all the leaders should have this and works effectively with others. Competent managers, organizes people and resources towards effective and efficient pursuit of predetermined objectives. So all these are not discrete. a leader should possess these characteristics. That's what Jim Collins say. An effective leader catalyzes commitment and has vigorous pursuit of clear and compelling vision, stimulating higher performance standards. Now then, he has labeled level 5 as executive, who builds enduring greatness through a paradoxical blend. So why a paradox? Because somebody who is humble, somebody who is mild, somebody who is shy, or somebody who is reserved has also got a professional will, the willingness to take the company from one level to another, that is good to great. So these are the 5 levels, and we will dwell upon level 5. So what do you mean by level 5? So level 5 leaders channel their ego needs. So they don't have any ego. Obviously, the ego is there. So the ego is to make the goal, their entire ego is the entire energy and channelizing their energy to make this company from good to great. So the goal is to channelize all their ego energy into making their company from good to great. So it's not that they don't have an ego or a self-interest, but rather their ambition is foremost for the institution and not themselves. So as a result, they set up successors. So they would not, as it is, they would not be limelight mongers. They would have an overarching strategy, of course, to how to see their company going from one level to another. So they have got a very robust succession planning. You can accomplish anything in life by Harry S. Truman. So this adage goes very nicely, the saying that you can accomplish anything in life, provided that you do not mind who gets the credit. So their mantra is whoever gets the credit, but accomplishing the objectives of taking a company from one level to other is what is the sole aim of a level 5 leader. So they do not go about finding larger than life celebrity leaders who ride outside. So the comparison companies which they have compared, and when they have done this empirical study, Jim Collins had seen that some of the comparison companies, industries had this kind of leaders who were, they wanted that celebrity status and the who's who of the that a lot of name and fame was, they craved for name and fame because they were the people who wanted to turn around. So after doing a lot of research on this, 10 out of 11 good to great. So we have to make, this is a remarkable revelation. The research has revealed that 10 out of 11 good to great CEOs came from inside the company. So they were all homegrown. Whereas the comparison companies brought people from outside. And it is how many times? 6 times in this entire years, more often than companies who were good to great. So such leaders concerned more on their reputation for personal greatness often fail to set their companies up for success. So this is what the rider is for level 5 leadership. So level 5 leaders would humbly attribute success to factors outside themselves. But this is another revelation in the research that when things go poorly, they would blame themselves, taking full responsibility. But the comparison company CEOs often did just the opposite, taking credit for the successes while blaming others for disappointing results. So then we understand that in the entire framework, we were talking about disciplined people and level 5 leadership. Now, there are a lot of, in level 5 leadership also, there are a lot of characteristics, but we can delve deep if we go and study the book. And even I have made a lot of revelations. I've also written a little bit on level 5 leadership. So now the second is first who, then what. So in disciplined people concept, first who, then what. So what do you mean by first who? The executive who ignited good to great transformation started by first setting the people on the bus. So they wanted the right people on the bus and the wrong people off the bus. And then they figured out where to take the bus. So the vision of reaching a certain goal was decided by the team members. So we can understand the second concept is first who, then what. And the reason is that when you begin with the who are the people, rather than what, you can more easily adapt to an ever-changing world because you have got a set of people who are high in conscientiousness, they are responsible, they are skilled, they are competent. You have already chosen your team members. So to be very clear, the key takeaway here is not just hiring the right people. Instead, it's hiring the right people comes from determining. So it is that, your vision, your strategy, your structure, your tactics, everything comes secondary, but your hiring the right people comes in the first. So that is what the study revealed. So such people should be recruited primarily for their character. So he has also seen in this entire study, which organizations which has become from good to great, that people were hired more for their character and work ethics, their attitude, rather than education, skills, knowledge, because you would be having the basic competence when you are taken on board. So that is the work of the HR to see how competent you are. But that cannot be a primary motive, because that can be acquired. So you have the basic skills, the other things can be added on the job. So this is another thing they have seen with level 5 leadership. So here are the 3 practical disciplines for making people decisions. So when we're making people decisions, if we have to talk about, then when in doubt, don't hire and keep looking. When you know that you need to make a change, act and put your best people on your biggest opportunities, not your biggest problems. So this is the change of level 5 leadership. So when level 5 leaders would see big opportunities, they would put their best people and their best employees forward, not in the problems to solve them. So when you have the right people, the problem of how to motivate, because they are high in conscientiousness, they are responsible, they are organized, they are competent, how to motivate and how to manage, partly is taken away. Largely that part is taken away from the leaders. You have to just tell them what to do and they do their job. So the right people don't need to be tightly managed or fired up. They are self-motivated. So level 5 leadership, Jim Collins talks about all these companies who had been able to reach from good to great had created an environment where hard working people can thrive and the lazy workers can jump the ship and are let go. So they were insisting right from the beginning, level 5 leadership, that we want the right people on the bus. We don't want to carry dead wood. So to be clear, having a great people doesn't mean they will always agree with each other. Now, this is another perspective which has been a great revelation in the study, that when we have great people, they might not agree. And it is very important that they don't agree. So it's best if they fiercely debate. So if there are a lot of debated on processes or on tasks, if 2 of employees are having debate, it should be encouraged. What is this debate about? To how make things better in the organization, how to make processes better. So if there are conflict in the organization regarding your task or your processes, then they have seen that the study revealed that level 5 leadership always encouraged this. So there might be fierce debate, ideas in pursuit of the best answers to the organizational questions. So then all is said and done. It is unifying fully behind the final decisions. So it is, why are we going on and debating on something? Because we want the organizations to be better. So when organizations to be great, and we want the best for the organization. But vis-a-vis this great companies and their comparison companies often took the genius with thousands helpers. That means they would choose the genius and the approach of the juniors and lot of other followers. So they did not have this concept. So a bold leader would set the vision and then coordinate with helpers to turn it into reality. Unfortunately, this approach falls apart when the leader leaves the organization. So for the comparison companies, when the leader leaves, so the best mind or the best strategists leave the organization, then the entire structure crumbles. So that is what is another revenue. So the concept 3 we would be talking about, confront the brutal facts. Now, what do you mean by in concept in discipline thought? When we are talking about brutal facts, it is understanding that companies cannot make great decisions without first confronting the reality. So what is this reality? Actually, in the ground, what's going on? So you should be open to taking a lot of reality from the people, from the employees. Instead of acknowledging the brutal fact, they create a risk. The comparison companies, instead of taking these facts, what they do is they create a recipe for mediocrity or understanding or worse. On the other hand, when you start with an honest effort to determine the truth of a situation, people who are doing the work would be able to understand what are the brutal facts that are going on. This might be brutal, that might be very dangerous at times, it might be challenging at times, but taking that feedback, level 5 leader would assimilate those feedback, because the right decisions often become self-evident when you hear it from the horse's mouth. So here are 4 ways that this level 5 leadership we're talking about when we talk about to create a climate where truth is heard. So the brutal facts talks about the basic, the hard truth. Now, when a level 5 leader addresses some brutal facts, he leads with questions and not answers. So what is happening? How are we going to do it? And he wants to take a feedback from his employees. Engage in dialogues and debate and not coercion. So no, there is no force. So there wouldn't be reprimand. They wouldn't be reprimanded for any kind of talking or speaking the truth. So when mistakes happen, conduct autopsies. So level 5 leaders would tell to conduct autopsies without any blame game. And during this entire process of the journey, there has to be red flag mechanisms to gather critical feedback. So when we are talking about the climate, here it is. So every good, now these 11 companies from 1,425 companies which were studied by Jim Collins across 40 years, every good to great company faced significant adversity. That it wasn't a smooth sail for anybody along the way to greatness. But in confronting this brutal fact, they left themselves stronger, more resilient, and not weaker and discouraged. So there is a sense of exhilaration that comes in facing the brutal facts and saying that, yes, we will take the challenge and we will never give up. So it's essential to strike a balance between confronting the most brutal facts that the organization reality is facing and the absolute faith that we can prevail this and we will sail through. So this is also referred to as the Stockdale approach or the Stockdale paradox, and it's vital for leading a company from good to great. Now, what is Stockdale paradox? Now, when we are talking about Stockdale paradox, it has been given by James Stockdale and Jim Collins together had come up with this paradox. Now, if you see this, the paradox is give up when, now there are many kind of personality traits of leaders. So there might be leaders who are very optimist and leaders who are very pessimist. Now, if there are a brutal fact or the brutal reality, now how does these leaders face them? So an optimist leader or an optimism leader give up when the brutal reality of today doesn't live up to the expectation. He was so optimist about a certain thing, the results to be so good. But when this good did not happen, or the results did not take, this optimist leader, the skill of the leader, what happens? He gives up because he was optimist and he felt that everything would fall into place, but then he did not and he gives up. And pessimism, we don't have to also discuss. So the Stockdale paradox talks about that when somebody is pessimist, obviously he'll give up when the brutal reality of today holds no hope. So what is the best way in Stockdale paradox? He talks about that persist when you confront the brutal reality of today and retain unwavering faith that you will prevail in the end. So it's a very good balance between understanding in the Stockdale paradox. So it's understanding that realism is the most important thing. So let us confront, because this is realistic, we have to confront the brutality and today, but we would not give up. We would be persistent and consistent. So the unwavering faith that you will be able to prevail in the end. So the next concept he talked about is the hedge. So in discipline thought, when we talked about confront the brutal facts. Now we talk about a very important concept that he talked about is the hedgehog concept. Now, what is a hedgehog? So when we talk about the concept hedgehog, the good to great companies were like hedgehogs, simple, dowdy creatures, and they have only one thing. They are so consumed with themselves because they know that they have their spikes. So it's a parable. It's a Greek parable, and it's like a metaphor that he has taken from the hedgehog. And the hedgehog and the fox is a parable, a Greek parable from where he has taken this concept. Hedgehogs are simple, dowdy creatures and have one core strategy, and they stick to it. So the comparison companies were more like foxes, crafty, cunning creatures that know many things but yet lack consistency. So hedgehogs are like they have blinders, they are focused, they have a strategy, but foxes are like very cunning. They would jump, run in order to get their predatory motives which they have. So this is the difference vis-a-vis a hedgehog and a fox. And this Greek parable concept has been taken by Jim Collins. The fox knows many things, but the hedgehog knows only one big thing. So this is what the parable talks about. Now, what is the hedgehog? Because it's a very important concept in the entire, and he has mentioned this several times. So these are the three roots. So crystalline concept of understanding that there are three circles, there are the three sets. What are you deeply passionate? Every company, level 5 leader who would want to take the company from good to great would understand the hedgehog concept. What are you deeply passionate about? What is your economic engine? And what can be there for what is the best that can be in this world? What am I best at in this world? So what am I deeply passionate about? How do I ignite my passion, stimulate passion? But to discover what makes you passionate. So good to great companies focused on activities that ignite their passion. So you can't manufacture, according to the level 5 leaders, you can't manufacture passion or motivate. So you cannot just motivate somebody or inspire somebody to become passionate about something. It is something which is very intrinsic. So you can only discover what you and your team are already passionate about. So let's start with what we already are passionate about and not waste our time in igniting passion. What can you be best at? Every company would like to be best at something, but few understand with total clarity what potential they are best at. So it's not about coming up with a goal to be the best, or a strategy to be the best, or an intention to be the best. It's about identifying what can truly be something which we are best at. So the distinction is very critical in understanding what we are best at, what we can be best at, and what we're really best at. So that distinction for a level 5 leader is very clear amongst his team members. And what drives your economic engine? So numbers are a very important. The fiscal intelligence of a level 5 leader is very, very deep. So every organization must understand how to generate and sustain and reserve cash flows. And some of the examples that may relevant might be might not be also, might seem very trivial, like you see profit per square feet. That means they would not blink an eye to give away their spaces if they feel that this spaces is not required and is cutting on my cash reserves. Profit per product, profit per customer, profit per retail location, profit per employee, profit per geography region. So if you can see that economic engine or fiscal intelligence is very, very high, and they make everything is numerized. So this is what when we talk about. So all of the good to great companies understood the essence of profound insight is being very simple, and they identified their hedgehog concept and use it as a frame of reference for future decisions. While it sometimes took years, for the concept to come together, the eventual discovery coincided with the breakthrough results. So if we see that entire flywheel, which we will be again discussing, we would see that the breakthrough does happen with level 5 leaders. So we have something known as disciplined action as the last. So what is this culture of discipline, which is very important? So here we again go back to understanding the ability to sustain great results depends on building a culture of discipline. So this is divided into three: disciplined people, disciplined thought, and disciplined action, which we have started off the concepts. So each plays a very critical in allowing organizations to thrive in and with very minimal bureaucracy. So what is disciplined people? So the literal meaning of the word only tells us that everything starts with great people. So avoid trying to discipline the wrong people. So in level 5 leadership and in the study, what was the characteristics of these leaders? It was seen that they avoid trying to discipline the wrong people into taking correct actions because it would take a lot of your energy away. So level 5 leaders instead identify self-disciplined people that are willing and able to go that extreme length to fulfill their responsibility. What is disciplined thought? So organizations must also be disciplined around confronting brutal facts, as we have already discussed, remaining very resilient and identifying a clear hedgehog concept. So it's like putting a blinder and understanding our strategy instead of pouncing and going around here and there, diversifying, merging, acquisitions. So these companies did not do that because they had to transit from good to great, and they were very clear about their vision. So when it comes to achieving sustained results, the most essential of the three is having a fanatical adherence to the hedgehog concept. So that is what they have seen in their entire research and study, that they were fanatically they were adhering to their hedgehog concept of understanding how we should take it from here to, instead of thinking about or going about doing so many things. Disciplined action talks about a culture of discipline involves duality. On one hand, it requires that people adhere to consistent system, and on the other hand, it gives people the freedom and the responsibility with the framework of that system. Thus, a culture of discipline is not just taking action, but ensuring that those actions contribute to the larger whole. So, in the good to great companies at their best follow a very simple mantra. Anything that does not fit our hedgehog concept, we will not do. We will not launch unrelated businesses. We will not take unrelated acquisitions. We will not do unrelated joint ventures. If it doesn't fit, we don't do it, period. So the more an organization has the discipline to stay within its three circles. So when we saw those three circles, it was very important for us to understand that is the hedgehog sun. And all these three circles are overlapping at one point of time if we see this. So it is very important what we are passionate about, what is our economic engine, and what is the best that we are in the world we are at. And this all merge into understanding in the middle is what the hedgehog. So all these companies are very clear about how they are trying to understand this hedgehog concept. So we are going to the next one, that is technology acceleration. So this is also very critical for us to understand that when the entire study was done for so many organizations for a longitudinal study, lot of research and empirical study about level 5 leadership, the critical question in this technology acceleration was, does this technology fit directly to the hedgehog concept? So when used correctly, technology becomes an accelerator of or momentum, not a creator of it. So now when we talk about what do you mean by technology like accelerator, the saying says that, the entire path of greatness is pioneered just for the sake of innovation. So just for the sake of innovation, let's not take up technology. Instead, they had taken this technology or this pioneering greatness. By pioneering this technology just for the sake of innovation, they will not. Instead, they will take these technologies which are relevant. So even when you need, you have to understand that the pioneer in the application of the technology is important. They would ask 10,000 times, is this technology useful for us at all? Because if they have taken a technology, you need to keep upgrading that technology. Once you have started using automation and technology, you cannot do away with it. So if yes, now, if no, then they would ask, do you really need it? If yes, then all you need is parity. You don't need the world's most advanced, for example, the phone system to be a great company. That is how they are talking about. So if no, then technology is irrelevant and you can ignore it. So good to great organizations avoid, we can see, technology fads, fashions, bandwagons, and they become pioneers in the application of very carefully selected technologies. So the thoughtless pursuit of technology is a liability, they feel, and not an asset. So innovation alone cannot run good enterprises into great one. So neither it can prevent a disaster. So now we understand a very important concept, and with this we almost finish off the understanding of level 5 leadership, and understanding how does this level 5 leaders could take companies from good to great. So what is the flywheel? When good to great transformation often happen, it might look very dramatic from the outside. They feel like organic cumulative processes to the people who are inside. The inside people do not feel that there is a quantum development of this. Outside people might feel that this company is from this has gone up to this 10 times, 20 times, 30 times growth in the next 15 years. How did they grow? But inside the organization, with the employees, with the team members, they don't feel. They feel very organically it has grown. It's very comparable to the time and effort which is required by a heavy flywheel spinning. Now, what is a flywheel? So you can see this might be a flywheel. So according to the flywheel concept, imagine a huge flywheel mounted on horizontally on an axle. Now, on the top, you are trying to mount a flywheel that is 30 feet in diameter, 2 feet thick, and 5,000 pounds in weight, about 4,500, say about kilogram. So this is also just an example. So any effort, they are saying now, to get it rotating necessarily starts with tremendous efforts and very minimal movement. So you will see that when you have to just rotate this on an axle high above this heavy thing, it might take tremendous effort, but very minimal movement. So as you continue doing this, if you see, however so long you continue pushing in the same direction, the task becomes easier as the wheel builds that momentum and then it starts growing. So this is the flywheel concept. Now, when we talk about the flywheel concept, it is seen that these companies, when it comes to business and you try to build the momentum, they have a very clear direction. The challenges around organizational commitment, alignment, and motivation begins to as if melt away very easily. They essentially take care of themselves as team members, starts to see visible, tangible results and build over time. Now, what is the doom loop? So when he was doing the study, the entire research and the empirical study, obviously he was doing a lot of comparisons with companies or in the same industry. Now, the dooms loop also, he has given that paradox. Now, for companies which weren't being able to build that momentum and could not go from good to great, they spent years bouncing back and forth between various strategies instead of making that consistent progress in one direction. As a result, they fell into what is known as the dooms loop. So, as we can see that this was the concept that was developed as level 5. So we have 5 levels. All the 5 levels are not discrete. One might overlap with the other. But when we are talking about level 5 leadership, the concept in the book From Good to Great, 1,435 companies were analyzed over a period of 40 years, and only 11 such companies were found. And we can see Kimberly-Clark is one, and this is a level 5 leader, Darwin E. Smith. Then we have Newker. So some of the pictures of this CEOs have tried to just show to understand that how they have taken this company from good to great. So Walgreens, Gillette, and these are the 11 companies from the entire set of companies that he had taken, which has reached from good to great only because of level 5 leader. So that's all from my side. Any questions? Thank
you. Thank you, Dr. Sweta. So from level 5 leadership to first who, then what, to confronting the brutal facts, the hedgehog concept, and of course, very importantly, the culture of discipline, and finally to technology accelerators. Thank you so much, Dr. Sweta, for so neatly putting together these wonderful concepts into an insightful narrative on level 5 leadership. I'm sure that our participants would certainly look forward to becoming these selfless, egoless level 5 leaders who aggressively contribute to the growth of the organizations that they would work for in the future. Well, now coming to a few questions before we take up the questions from the audiences. I have a couple of questions which I'm sure would help the audiences also to understand level 5 leadership a bit better. So my first question, Dr. Sweta, is how can organizations cultivate and support the development of level 5 leaders?
See, every organization's, one thing which we have to understand is level 5 leadership can be developed. It is not only an innate quality. It can be developed. Some innate qualities has to be there. Like we can all understand. If you're an optimist or you're a pessimist, more years of your life, you will be like that. So qualities like humility may be harder to cultivate.
Right.
Though intentional development programs, mentorship, self-reflection, and experience, individuals can learn to embody, and organizations can also nurture that. Studying the level 5 leadership, what are the characteristics? Because what we said is just a 45 minutes thing. Otherwise, there are a lot in-depth study on level 5 leadership, and a lot of characteristics of a level 5 leader can be studied. So cultivating humility, resilience, long-term thinking are the aspects that can be nurtured over time, and organizations can also help.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. One quick question on something similar that you were saying. So is level 5 leadership an innate quality, or can it be developed explicitly through conditioning, through programs or certain things?
Yes, it can be developed. Certain innate characteristics would be there, as we have just discussed. Humility as something which is a very innate intrinsic quality. So a person who is doesn't have humility at all is crude or a little rude or abrupt, cannot suddenly become humble or easy to be approached. So this is one thing. And I would also like to say that how does this level 5 leadership differ from other leadership styles? So you talk about servant leadership. We spoke about charismatic leadership. There are transformational leadership, transactional leadership. So with both level 5 and servant leadership, there might be some similarity. Like they put the organization, the employees first. So level 5 combines humility with a greater focus on organizational success. So charismatic leaders who often seek the limelight. They are the limelight mongers, as we have already discussed, that celebrity status. They like it. So level 5 leaders prefer to little stay in the background, letting others shine and have a nice succession planning, taking the blame, but giving the praise. And transformational leadership, also another leadership. I'm just taking randomly 3 kinds of leadership. This, both level 5 and transformational leadership seeks long-term goals. But again, level 5 leaders taking this humility is their will and their humility the will to succeed and humility are 2 important pillars. And whereas transformation leaders often act as role models, visionary role models, but here there is no role model.
Right. All right. Okay. Well, let me just check quickly if there are any questions from the audiences. In the meantime, let me also request the audiences to fill up the attendance feedback. It's going to be active for a few minutes. Can we have any audience questions? So let me also check with. We also have live audiences on the YouTube channel. So, any questions from the audiences? I guess no. Okay, so since we don't have any more questions, we can now move towards the concluding part of this session. So with this, I would now like to thank Dr. Sweta Banerjee for her time and her valuable insights on this topic of level 5 leadership. Thank you so much, ma'am, for enlightening us. I would also like to thank Mr. Sudhir Sharma, President. Mr. Sudhir Sharma, President, AIMS, all the board members of AIMS, along with AIMS Secretary, And lastly, of course, all our wonderful participants for attending this session. We look forward for more such sessions to come in the future, and I'm sure the participants will be immensely benefited with these sessions. Thank you all once again. I would now be ending this meeting and requesting you all to log off for the day. Wishing you all a very happy Diwali, a very joyful Diwali ahead. Have a great time. Thank you very much.
So happy Diwali to all the participants and colleagues.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, we can end the meeting.